Today we will be doing design of compression member. We are already done with design of slab and design of beam. When we consider a load transfer mechanism in framed structure, load from slab is transferred to beam and from beam it is transferred to column. So this is what is the compression members which we are going to design. This comes under limit state of collapse compression. Now this compression member, it is a structural element which is subjected to axial compressive force. We are going to define it as a column when its effective length L effective, it is greater than 3 times least lateral dimension, and we are going to call it as a pedestal when its effective length is less than 3 times least lateral dimension. At the same time, when this compression member, in addition to axial compression, it is subjected to movement, we are going to call it as a beam column. Now we are going to define these columns classification based on type of reinforcement. So what type of reinforcement we are providing in columns, what type and in what way we are going to provide that reinforcement in column. Based on that we are going to have classification as tied column, spiral column and composite column. Now what is this? Let us consider this. This is what is a cross section of a column. Now you can see in this cross section this dark rectangle inside it is lateral tie, and if I'm going to consider this longitudinal section along its length, so this vertical line, this indicates longitudinal bars and these horizontal lines indicates ties. So when this longitudinal reinforcement, it is tied up with closely spaced or ties spaced at certain distance, this is what is a transverse reinforcement, we are going to call it as a tied column. Then we are having spiral column. What is this spiral column? Now again this external circle is a concrete boundary. Here in internal dark line it indicates ties. Now and these internal small, you can see circles over here, these are longitudinal bars. So this is what we are having, longitudinal bars. But you can see the position of tie. See, a single bar it is going to place in this way, it is tied up in this way. So this is what is called as spiral column. What is difference over here? A single tie it is going to finish here itself, it is going to cut, and then this is a second tie. But here in this case what is happening, a single bar it is placed spirally, it is arranged spirally, so to hold this main reinforcement in position. This is what is called as spiral column. Now this composite column, now in this composite column sometimes this ties and longitudinal bars are there or they may not be there, but what is important here in this case, these are reinforced with structural steel. Now what is this structural steel? You can see in this rectangular section structural I section is provided, and in this is what is a steel hollow pipe is provided as a reinforcement. So this is called as composite column. Now next we are having classification based on how it is loaded. Now how it is loaded, we have already discussed, it is a compression member and it is subjected to axial compression passing through its longitudinal axis. So this is what is a case, this is a cross section and this is a location of centroidal axis. So when the load is passing, this P is the load or the force, it is passing through its longitudinal axis. This is what is called as actually loaded member, but this is absolutely a theoretical case. Why theoretical case? Because many a times it happens that the load or this force which is acting on column, as we have discussed, it is the load transferred from beam. So in what way it is transferred, it is going to transfer in the form of reaction of beam to column. So it is always or it is not necessary that the reaction of that beam is exactly passing through the centroidal axis of the column, but the reaction, it is somewhere away from the centroidal axis of the column. So in this way, now here is the center of column or centroidal axis of the column or longitudinal axis of the column, and this is the point of application of load. Load means, now here we have to understand, it is a reaction from beam. Now this distance between this line of action of force and this centroidal axis, it gives certain eccentricity, it is acting at some eccentricity. So this is called the loading is at some eccentricity, and it is called as uniaxially eccentric loading. Basically it is a eccentric loading. Now why it is uniaxial? You can see it is uh, it is eccentric only about this x-axis, whereas this is acting on y-axis. So it is eccentric only about x-axis. But in some of the cases it may happen that the load, it is eccentric about both the axes. In that case we are going to call it as a biaxial eccentric loading. Now how it is happening? You can see this figure. This is a column. Here is the point of application of load. Here is the centroidal axis of the column. So this is what is the eccentricity about y-axis, and this is what is the eccentricity about x-axis. Okay, so in this way this is eccentric about both the axes, so it is called as biaxial loading. Now this is what is theoretical consideration. Now exactly here in this case, referring to our structural plan, now we have to define or we have to classify columns in our project work or in our building or in our structural plan. How do we are going to do this? Now I am going to categorize this as, this is a corner column, this is a side face column, and here it is a inner column. Now how it differs? You can see this corner column, it is having beam from this side, it is having beam from this side. Okay, so reaction of this beam may not be passing through the centroidal axis of the column, or reaction of this beam, it may not be passing through the centroidal axis of the column. In that case this corner column, it is eccentric, it is subjected to loading eccentric about both axes. Whereas if I am going to consider this side face column, what is happening in this? Now this beam and this beam both are in line. So when the reaction of this beam and reaction of this beam, concentrically it is passing through the centroidal axis of the column. So it is not giving any eccentricity. Then where is the eccentricity? Let us consider this beam. Reaction of this beam, it is not passing through the centroidal axis of column. So this column, it is subjected to loading eccentric only about one axis. So it is called, or it is defined as uniaxially loaded column. Whereas now let us consider this column. You can see this beam and this beam both are in line. Reaction of these two beams concentrically passing through the centroidal axis of the column. This beam and this beam reaction again concentrically passing through the centroidal axis of the column. So nowhere there is a eccentricity for the beam reactions. So this is what is concentrically loaded column, or it is axially loaded column. So in this way, clear cut, we are going to define it as corner columns are biaxially loaded column, side columns are uniaxially loaded column, and inner columns are axially loaded columns. Of course, when we are going to design this, we are going to check all these with its minimum eccentricity criteria. What is this minimum eccentricity criteria? That you will come to know when we go further. So this is what is classification of column based on type of loading. Now classification based on slenderness ratio. What is slenderness ratio? It's ratio of effective length to lateral dimension. Now based on this, we are having short columns and long columns. Now this term is very much we are knowing. Short column fails by crushing, long column fails by buckling. So many times we have discussed this. But how do we are going to define short column? When its effective length to least lateral dimension it is less than 12, it is short column. And long column, when its effective length to lateral dimension it is greater than 12, it is called as long columns. Now as I have just mentioned, what we are having, short column fails by crushing, long column fails by buckling, right? So this is what we are going to consider, mm, different types of or different classification of column based on slenderness ratio. Now this, the unsupported length between end restraint shall not exceed 60 times the least lateral dimension of a column. This is additional criteria which we have to check for slenderness ratio. If in any given plane one end of a column is unrestrained, its unsupported length L shall not exceed 100 b square by d. Here it is a capital D. This is as mentioned in clause 25.3 page number 42 of course of IS 456. Now this is what is the classification based or its modes of failure. Herein you can see this is what is the P, that is the load carrying capacity you can say, and this L by D it is slenderness ratio. As the slenderness ratio goes on increasing, you can see over here its load carrying capacity decreases, right? So longer the column, lesser is the load resistance capacity. Now one more term was there in earlier slide, it is unsupported length. Now what is this unsupported length? So code is suggesting that, or code is saying that we have to consider this unsupported length as clear distance between end restraints. Now if you refer this clause, there are so many points for different elements how to consider this unsupported length. But as we are designing only beam and slab kind of construction, so I am going to refer only that paragraph from this clause. Here in this case it shall be the clear distance between the floor and the underside of the shallower beam. This is important, underside of the shallower beam. Now what is this? Let us consider this now. This is what is a column we are having. A beam on one side it is having this depth and beam on other side it is having this depth. Now what code is saying? We have to consider underside of the shallower beam which is having less depth. So this is what is now our unsupported length, underside of the shallower beam. Now here in this case, first we understand the figure. This is what is a cross section of this column. You can see the same color over here. So this is a column and it is cross section of a column. So for this, along its y direction we are having this pink beam, and along this x direction we are having this blue beam. Got? Fine. Now we have to find out unsupported length underside of shallower depth beam. So when I am considering Ly, you can see now I am considering beams along x axis. So this gives us Ly. Whereas now when I have to find out Lx, it is the unsupported length underside of the beam along y. So this is what is our Lx. Got it? Then we are having effective length. Now for this, since our strength of material, we are knowing effective length. What is effective length? This effective length is basically a length between point of contraflexure or point of zero movement. So in code it is mentioned as can be defined as the length of an equivalent pin ended column. Pin ended means what? Pin end, it is a hinged end where the moment is zero. So it is just the same thing, length between point of contraflexure or length between zero moment. So this is given in clause 25.2 page 42, and for this table we have to refer to annexure E. Now this you are knowing, so I am not going to explain this as much. Depending upon end restraint we are having buckling coefficient. So these are the buckling coefficients which we are going to consider. Now as we have seen in a slide over there, we have to consider biaxially loaded column when it is having eccentricity about both the axes. We have to consider side face column when it is having eccentricity about one axis, and we have to consider actually loaded column where there is no eccentricity for load applied on it. But in addition to this, we have to check our columns when we are going to design for minimum eccentricity. What code is suggesting for this minimum eccentricity? This minimum eccentricity equal to the unsupported length of column by 500 or 20 mm, whichever is greater. Unsupported length of column by 500 plus lateral dimension by 30, subject to a minimum of 20. So amongst these two, whichever is greater, that we are going to define it as a minimum eccentricity. Now how do we are going to use this? Of course during our numerical we are going to see this. Now reinforcement in column. As we have already discussed, there are two types of reinforcement. One is longitudinal reinforcement, other is transverse reinforcement. Now why we have to provide this longitudinal reinforcement or transverse reinforcement? See, because when we have considered why we need to have reinforced cement concrete sections, the answer is concrete is weak in tension, so we have to increase its tension resistance capacity. That is of course true in case of beams or in case of slab. But when we are now referring to column, which is a compression member, where there is a tension in column, column is a compression member. But if that column it is subjected to additional movement, there is tension. So to resist that tension, we need to provide longitudinal reinforcement. But if there is no tension, no movement, no tension, why it is necessary to provide reinforcement in compression member? The answer is, though concrete is good in compression, other disadvantage of concrete is it is brittle in nature. Brittle means what? When it fails suddenly. Sudden collapse, brittle failure. So to avoid this brittle failure or sudden collapse, we have to provide reinforcement in compression members. In other words, we can say to improve its ductility. Ductility means what? That element should give us prior indication of failure. So it is ductility. In addition to this, to reduce effect of creep and shrinkage of concrete, we have to provide longitudinal reinforcement. Now this is very interesting. The last one is to hold transverse reinforcement. Now if you go for the transverse reinforcement, you can see one sentence over there. Why we need to provide transverse reinforcement? To hold longitudinal reinforcement in position. It is this. Again, the very important thing is when we provide longitudinal bars as compared to length, its cross section is very less. So this becomes quite a slender one, and to prevent its buckling, we have to provide transverse reinforcement. Then to confine the concrete, increase its confinement, to resist transverse shear, and to prevent sudden collapse. Again, this is a brittle failure, and this is to hold longitudinal reinforcement in position. So this is what is given in clause 26.5.3.2, page number 49. So this is all about basics of compression member. Some points we have referred it from strength of materials, and some points we have referred it from the code. Fine. Now next is we are going to see actually limit state of collapse, means how to calculate compression resisting capacity of the section, and we are going to design actually loaded member in the next session. Fine then, bye.